All right, I think we are live now. So I first go with Riverside. Yeah, I think I'll see participants as they join, but we'll see. Let me send a reminder that we're live. So we're actually streaming now.
Right in here.
Madam Dolly, I think we'll go ahead and start while I keep watching and making sure. I think it's going to be a learning curve for everyone. But the beautiful thing about this is this platform is beautiful. It will give us
Recording and then you.
a clean replay for so anybody who misses it will still get high
So is it
quality.
just me and you right now?
Yeah, it's just me. I'm trying to make sure that there is no waiting room area, but I am navigating a learning learning curve as well. But normally, and there's a chance that I think I see somebody in. Okay, let me see. I want to see one person at least join. I want to make sure I know how that piece of it works. That is the only thing. I just need one. I just need one soul to know it's not just because now it shows it's me and you. So I want to make sure. All right, let's just go ahead and start. Let's start and we'll proceed. I have faith. I know Stella will yell at me if I didn't do well, so I'll know. I know that. Well, just for the sake of time, so we can. I've sent a
Okay,
reminder and the.
no problem. Okay, it's
All right.
2:05.
Yes,
It's
205.
2:05 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for inviting me back, to share some more real estate knowledge. I am always happy to, help. I really believe so much in elevating the community. Another opportunity. I decided to expand on house hacking. I know that the one of the last sessions that I had, we already talked about house hacking, and a few people may have been at that session, or maybe they have a little bit of knowledge about it. But it's something that I think is important to really know about right now, and I'll tell you why. Right now, the economy, it feels a bit tighter. Things are more expensive, people are losing their jobs, everything is really uncertain. And for this reason, I feel like it's important for us to figure out how we can navigate ourselves, especially as immigrants in this, society right now, or in this economy right now. So I have worked with so many people, and I'm always sharing with them, look, this is what is working now. You know, that's the beauty of real estate. Different things work at different times. But right now, what I see working and what I think there's an opportunity in is really house hacking. So that's why I wanted to double down on that method today. Now, basically, house hacking is it's not difficult. House hacking is just a way to afford your mortgage or make things easier for you. So, my hope is that each person in this country is taking advantage of being able to own a home. I don't want people to have come all the way to America and then you're renting forever, never, never. No. Part of the American dream is that you're able to own a home. And some of the things, or the one thing that is special about America, which some people might not realize, is the mortgage system that we have here. In other countries, like our friends in other parts of the diaspora, such as like in the UK or in Canada, their mortgage system is very different from ours. The unique thing for us is that we're able to have a 30-year mortgage and lock in whatever interest rates that they give you for 30 years. That is actually unique. In other countries, they have to refinance every few years, maybe every 5 years. And that means that with whatever the interest rate is saying in that 5 year window, that you have to now move to. So the fact that we can find an opportunity here and you can actually pre plan your way for a good stretch of time makes this a really, really, really good opportunity, which I don't want anybody to skimp on. Right now in the media, you'll be hearing things like interest rates are going up, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they are going up. When interest rates go up, that means your mortgage is going to, and that means that your payment is going to go up. That's not even considering taxes. Taxes continue to go up. So the price of owning a home, this year is most likely going to be so much more than owning the same home if you had bought it in 2021. What we are trying to do right now is still allow you to be able to own that dream property, but at the same time be able to afford the mortgage. So basically, what is house hacking? It's just a way for you to own a property where you have a tenant that is going to be paying part of your mortgage. And what that does is that it makes it more affordable for you. So you buy a home, you rent a portion of it, you count your cash. Now, there are different ways that we can house hack. You can rent out, even if it's just a room, you can rent out a whole basement. You could even have an accessory dwelling unit, maybe built in the back of your compound. You could buy a duplex where you're living in one side and then somebody else is living on another side. So that means you're, renting out a whole other house to somebody. Decide you want to buy a triplex or a fourplex. These opportunities exist from single family all the way up to a fourplex, exist with primary residence loan. That is amazing. If you're doing anything above four properties in one, then it moves into commercial and then you don't get the same advantages. So let me explain. When you're buying a single family home all the way to a fourplex, you have the opportunity to still use the low money down that goes with the primary residence. We're talking about the FHA loans, we're talking about the conventional loans, we're talking about VA if you're a veteran, or USDA if you decide to buy it in a place where there's like some kind of agricultural advantages, right? There are other ways too. There's some unique things that are coming out where people are renting out maybe their backyards for a party, or maybe you have a pool, you want to rent it out. Anything that allows you to earn some money from the property that you are living in is basically a house hack. Now, I'll just kind of like blow through why house hacking is powerful, right? Number one, as I was saying, you still have the advantage of the low down payment. So if you're a first time home buyer, you're able to pay 3% or 3.5% if it's FHA. And even in the USDA and VA, you might even pay zero down payment for the house. You just need to be able to qualify for it. You get the reduced interest rates, which are so different from the interest rates that an investor is going to get. So that is why we want to stay within the primary residence part. If you're going to do it as a business, you can't do anything less than 20%. So you can just imagine being able to get a house with 0 to 5% is fantastic. You're able to build equity faster. When I say this, let me know, let me give you the reason that I'm saying this. Supposing you are paying your mortgage and then you have extra income coming from a tenant. You can already afford the mortgage, right? You can decide to take that extra income and pay it extra. That means that your mortgage is going to go down much faster and you end up paying much less. It gives you an opportunity to also, get some rebates on your taxes, certainly reduces your housing costs, and it gives you the opportunity to enter into becoming a landlord in a very easy way. Once you have a tenant living with you, at least if there's anything wrong, you're right there on the property. You can already tell, okay, this needs some maintenance, this needs some, the tenant needs this and that, or this is how easy it is to get my rent and all those kind of things. So it's a good way for you to also gain landlord experience, because the hope is that this is not going to be the last house that you buy. The hope is that you're going to build a rental portfolio which is going to, help you retire in the long run. Now, who can house hack? Anybody can house hack. All you need is to be able to qualify for a loan. In order for you to qualify for a loan, you typically need to have a job, because they have to be able to see your source of income, or you at least have to be able to, even if you have a business, you have to have it structured in a way that you can see where your income is coming from, right? The good thing about the mortgage system is that Every single person can qualify. Every It's not cookie cutter. What one person gets is different from what another person will get. So it depends on also your credit. It depends on also your debt to income ratio. These are different factors that come together to allow you to be able to get a mortgage. Now, I want to make a plea to people. Right now, everybody is scared, and when we're scared, we get stuck. And we feel like, oh my God, I don't want to go buy a house right now. I don't want to do anything. Let me just continue coasting. Let me just continue coasting and saving this money because we don't know what's going to happen. I understand that. However, if you feel like there's a possibility that you might lose your job because of AI or whatever it is, the one advantage that your job can give you is that it can allow you to buy a house. When, if God forbid you lose the job, guess what? You still have the house. So, my plea is look, find out how much house can you qualify for and even just get it so that you know that you have a roof over your head. You don't have to use the entire budget or the entire amount of money that you qualify for. But I believe that if you have real estate, then you know that you have something to lean on in the future. So you think that you're going to lose your job. This is not the time for you to say, no, no, let me not buy anything. No, this is actually the time for you to be like, before they fire me, let me even get something. Let me be able to tap into my 401k, even if I need to get the down payment. Is really important. I know that it is scary, but this is honestly, to me, the safest play. Get yourself a property, and then we start figuring it out as we go. All of us are going to Google figure it out together because we don't know where this country is going right now. Now, I'm going to give you a real life example because I practice what I preach. I'm not just saying this thing because, I'm just trying to sell houses. No, I'm saying this because this was one of the best decisions that my family made in 2018. Okay. And I just want to show you what the numbers can look like for you. Right now, of course, um, giving you the stats. So we bought this house. It's in Lawrenceville, Georgia, for us to live in. My husband had a 9 to 5 at the time. And so um, we were able to we decided to do 5% down. We didn't have to. We could have done 3% down or whatever, but we did do 5% down. And the cost of the price of the house at the time was 244,500. That was in 2018. Our down payment was somewhere around 12, 13,000, which made our mortgage around 1,800, right? Now, the only reason that I bought this house was not a dream house to us. This was not the house that we went to and we felt like, oh my goodness, I love the kitchen, I love the bathrooms. No, it wasn't that. It was a house that we saw had so much potential. I'll show it. These are the three pictures that I put at the side, if you can see. These three pictures at the side of the main picture are showing you a kitchen. That is not the main kitchen of the house. That was the kitchen in the basement that was already there. The second picture is the living area of the house. That is the exterior door. So it has an exterior access. And this big space already looked like a perfect living room. And you still had this space, extra maybe dining area. And then you had a full bathroom. This was enough to be able to see that this could be a studio apartment, right? In addition, I didn't put a picture of it. There was another room, a bonus room on that basement level that didn't have a window, so couldn't be classified as a room. But it was like, for all intents and purposes, it would serve perfectly as a bedroom. We got this home purely because the basement was rentable. That was the only reason we got this home. And we were like, you know what? we're going to stick this house, even though in the main part of the house is in really good condition, but we don't really like the house that much. The one thing I hated about the house is that there was no pantry. It was just like I hated that. But everything else checked out. And so we got this house. Now, we got a tenant who was a teacher in a nearby high school, and he started off with paying us $900 every month. So can you imagine? Now I'm cash flowing $900. I don't have to pay my 1800. I don't have to pay 1800 a month anymore. I have this person giving me 900, which means that my mortgage is now basically only 900. I think that was a serious advantage for us. That enabled us to be able to afford our other investing in other houses, because the cost of living in the house we had was not so much. Okay. Now, after a couple of years, guess what happened? Oh, I even forgot to tell you. So he went from 900. I think the next year we increased it to 1,000. The year after that, he started paying 1,100. Okay. The guy was happy to stay there. When we decided that we were leaving the house, we thought to ourselves, oh, we're leaving the house. We want to rent it out, but we feel that if we should rent this house to somebody, they wouldn't like the fact that someone is in the basement, and we don't want to have to deal with all that. So we said, you know what, tenant, please leave so that we can rent the entire house. Guess what? Our tenant begged us that he doesn't want to leave. He will even take the whole mortgage. So he would take the whole rent. I'm sorry. He would take the whole rent and he would sublet it to somebody else, which is what we did. So he ended up paying us. I think we gave him a discount because, of course, the house was supposed to be 2,800, but because we knew him and he'd been so good for the last couple of years, we started him off at 2,500, which over the next few years got up to 2,800. And we're happy, right? Imagine cash flowing. The rent is already 2,800. The mortgage is about 2,000 or so at this point because of course, taxes had increased or whatever. Moving forward, we wanted to sell the property, but we're like, no, let's not sell it. Let's hold it, because this property in our mind was like, let's just hold it. If we have someone to rent it, why not? Guess what happened? We got an insurance company. In fact, they begged us. This insurance company kept on begging us. We said, no, we're thinking about selling it. But at the end of the day, they came with an offer we couldn't refuse. They decided to rent it to somebody who unfortunately had their house on fire, and they needed something close by, and they really wanted to have, this house. And the insurance company decided to start paying us 3,600. Can you just imagine that? That was like serious cash flow. Can you imagine how much savings that you can get from this house? And at the end of the day, when we finished with the insurance company, they rented it for about a year, and then we just sold the property for 439,000. This could be you. We only got this house in 2018. So when I tell you that there are opportunities where you can, gain a lot from one single property, this is what I'm talking about. Now, there's so many ways that, some people might think, oh, how realistic is it for you to be able to make, that amount of money from a rental? Because right now, rent, because everybody is a little bit afraid. People are really not trying to move. People are looking for the cheapest way to live. People are going back home to live with their parents. They are teaming up to get a house with their friends because of the economy, as we said. But if you don't even have the opportunity to get a house that has a separate basement, even if you just get a normal house, you can go on to websites. I listed some of them here, like roomies.com, alcove rooms, pad split, spareroom.com, furnish finder, Airbnb, even Zillow and Facebook marketplace or whatever. You can rent as little as a room within your house. I know it might seem unconventional. I know it might seem uncomfortable, but at least you know that you have the options. I think it's best when you have a whole separate apartment, but I just want you to know that even if you don't have that opportunity, there is, you don't have that facility, you don't have a separate basement or something to rent out, you are not left out. You can still practice this. It's a bit inconveniencing for you, but you can still practice it so that you can continue to afford your mortgage. You have people that are willing to rent out rooms in houses for about, $200 a week. You know, if you're getting an extra $800 to put into your mortgage, that really, really does go a long way. So I will encourage people to think about it and see. Of course, there are things that you have to consider. You're not going to just take any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but it's something that, I think that we should consider. And in fact, within our community, our community, we have people that need help. We need to figure out a way that we can be responsible, for other members of our community in helping them, but not in a way that will put ourselves into trouble or into danger. I've heard of people, you let somebody into your house and next thing it becomes a whole problem. So you have to be careful, but being open to ways of being able to afford your mortgage, I really think it's a good idea. Now, what to know before you start? Of course, I touched on it a little bit. There's always going to be maintenance, repairs. You're going to have to manage tenants properly. You're going to have to be able to figure out the local rules and the zoning laws in your area and possible unexpected expenses. There's always something. It's when you have just collected your rent that the HVAC will just say, I'm tired now or something. So you have to be able to put some money aside for things like that, right? But for you to like get into this, I would say you have to be able to know how to screen tenants properly, or at least work with somebody that can at least do it to the best of their ability. You don't want to expose yourself to bad elements. So I remember when we were trying to rent that basement, you have to be able to kind of gauge people. One of the reasons that we picked the guy that we picked was because he was a school teacher. We did a background check on him, but we were like, you know what, for all intents and purposes, a school teacher has also gone through extra background checks and things like that. He has steady employment and things, that kind of thing. So you also have to set aside reserves, and you have to know how to choose the right property up front. That is very important. It's not every single property that might be easy to house hack. So when you're going looking for properties, you have to go with your mindset on, what kind of house hacking that you're open to doing. So I would say the first steps is really to talk to a realtor, which I mean, talk to me, Realtor Dolly, and speak to, and then I always have lenders that I work with, right? But you can speak to your bank if you want, but I would say speak to a lender that can tell you how much you can really afford and optimize it for you. You have to find the right property that's going to work, and you have to also run the numbers. It's so sad when somebody buys something with the mind that it's going to be a good investment, and at the end of the day it's costing them more money than, they're spending more money than they're even gaining. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to make sure that you are able to gain from this experience. So I wanted to run some numbers with you just so that you can see that even though I bought that house in 2018, it's not only 2018 that we have to rely on. Look at this house. Who wouldn't be proud to own this house? This house is in Ellenwood, Georgia, which is like kind of south of the airport, right? As this house is on the market right now. I decided to just pick something that is fresh on the market. It's been on the market for 5 days. It's a 5 bedroom, 4 bath as it is. The basement is already finished, and they've listed this house at $365,000, dollars. Okay? To me, that is such a good deal. Because there are not a lot of buyers in the market right now because of the economy, people are reducing their prices like crazy. So even this 365K, for all you know, we can still probably even get it down if they don't have, another offer. The potential mortgage, averagely, it's looking to me, hey, don't hold me to it. But the potential mortgage for this property should be around 2,600. By looking at the different, by looking on the different Zillows and this, running the numbers, a very conservative rent for this property for the month is 1200. Please, if you have this beautiful house and you're only paying 1400 out of your pocket, that is a win. You know, that is a win. Now, I'm saying this is 1200, but I put in the corner, if you can see, that there's somebody else in Ellenwood who has listed a luxury rental, they called it. And they are listing this room which has been set up. So if you decide, okay, you know what, I want to set it up and I want to make it nice and I want to give the person extra space and blah, blah, blah. This person is renting out this room that they're calling a luxury rental for $400 a week. You know what, $400 a week? That is $2,000 a month. If you can do something like that and get somebody that's going to be paying you $2,000 a month, or you're using Furnish Finder where maybe there's a hospital nearby where a nurse can come or whatever, that means that your mortgage every month will go down to $600. I mean, that is amazing, right? So that's why I'm really, really passionate about house hacking. I love it because I feel like this is the mode right now. This is the method right now where you can really take advantage of, the opportunity of having a mortgage and everything. So I hope, everybody really considers it. I know so many people, they're not comfortable with somebody living in their house or somebody living in their basement. But trust me, when I lived with a tenant in my basement, I hardly saw the guy. Hardly ever saw the guy. And he was using one side of our driveway. I didn't see that guy at all. So I really think that it wasn't something that inconvenienced me at all. It was a really good experience. I've had other clients. The last time I did this talk, I talked about another client who had a home who even went through the trouble of even redoing the basement in order to add the bathroom and add all those things, and save themselves like 1,500 of their mortgage, right? So this is something that I consistently advise people to do, and I just wanted an opportunity to remind you guys about this opportunity. So thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me, my phone number is on the screen, but really you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. Just look for Realtor Dolly or Realtor Dolly Homes. I'm going to be there with one of those two. Either it's going to be Realtor Dolly or it's going to be Realtor Dolly Homes on all the social media platforms. All right. Any questions? Awesome. Happy with you.
Consider.
So absolutely. So right now, because you said that you bought the house a long time ago, that suggests to me that you should have like a significant amount of equity in that home.
Yeah.
If you have a significant amount of equity in that home, some people pull out, their down payment for the next house from this house that they own.
Okay.
You can either sell it and then pull out the equity from it. It's possible. But because the market is a little bit down for sellers in particular, even though I'm a real estate agent and I'm supposed to be saying, hey, list your house with me, list your house with me, I don't do that. I would like to dive in and really see what the opportunities are for you and how much equity that you have, because what's good for the goose might not be good for the gander, right? But right off the top of my head, I would advise that the property you have now, you find a way to rent it out, and then you buy another property where you can also house hack. Because to me, I believe that we're trying to build a huge rental portfolio so that you can retire, right? So if every few years you buy a house with the low down payment loans, you've already locked in whatever the mortgage is, right? So you do another low down payment loan for the other one, but you already have this one in locked at a lower mortgage. As long as whatever a tenant pays is going to be higher than what this mortgage is, then I would say try and hold on to that property, and don't refinance or anything. Just hold on to it and try to make as much money as you can from the property. Now, if you leave the property, you can decide, oh, I'm just going to rent it to one family. That's fine. But you might also be able to try this room by room rental and see with pad split or whatever, furnish find or whatever, and see whether that could also work for you, because you might be able to make even more money from that. And I understand also that when you have children, you need to protect your children. So I wouldn't recommend people, especially with all this nonsense we're hearing nowadays with that people are really depraved. I don't really know what's going on. Like Epstein or no Epstein and children. I don't get it. We really need to protect our children, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to get a new property, my recommendation is to get something that is completely different. In our own case, we even had to create a separate path to go to the basement. You don't have to be in this, like, it's almost like it's a duplex, right? There's nothing that is joining you to the person that is living downstairs. You know what I mean? So I would recommend that if you can, buy another property that is more suited to house hacking, the basement ADU way, and still holding on to this one. But sometimes maybe you can't hold on to this one and another one at the same time, right? If that's the case, then maybe we might have to sell the original one that you have, okay? Or refinance and pull some money out of it.
Yeah, I'll be
You
fine.
could, you could decide you're doing a HELOC and all these things, but you have to be before you do anything like that. It's best for you to also talk to a lender, because the lender before you do anything like that, because for instance, it could affect like how much you can qualify for the next house that you're going into. So it's best to first of all talk to the finance people and then let them tell you, what you can. Oh, 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 nice.
um, per month.
Yes.
And I think
Praise.
yeah,
Yeah. Look, this, this
so
is
I
the
like
reason. It's really, really, really crazy, which is the reason why I'm advocating for more, creativity using this house hacking and stuff, because the taxes have been jumping up for everybody. But the first thing, you have to make sure that you have all the exemptions that you qualify for. For
mhm,
instance, at least you know that every single person that owns a home and is using it as their house, you have the homestead exemption.
yeah,
Make sure that you activate the homestead exemption. You have exemptions for some jobs, like if you work with first responder, blah, blah, blah. You have different exemptions for different things. If you're a veteran, blah, blah, blah. All the exemptions that you can possibly qualify for, you must go and activate it onto your house, whether you or your spouse, or if, in fact, I know somebody who, because she needed to qualify for an exemption, moved her mother into the house so that they could qualify some of the and put the name of the mother, the house in the mother's name or something,
mm,
so that, what,
that makes sense.
gosh, put the house in her mother's name so that her mother would be the owner of the house, so that they could get the
To qualify
exemption for
for.
age and stuff like
Mm,
that. Okay. Also, you have the ability to challenge any nonsense that they tell you. You will call the tax commissioner's office and say, no, I need to really, and you can also get your realtor sometimes to also look at, what they're estimating that your house is worth or whatever, and just appeal to them and be like, man, I can't afford it. To no, this is not possible. Sometimes they're able to do something. Then there's something called there's a service, I think it's called OcuSell or something. And that particular service, their work is to try and help you save on your taxes. I haven't used them personally, but they say that they will help you. OcuSell is also some, is it, no, wait, oh, I'm sorry, not OcuSell. I think I forgot. Wait, hold on. Is it on wall? No, it's wait, real estate taxes. Yes. Sorry, own well. Own well. I said
own
OcuSell.
well.
OcuSell is another thing that I use. Own well. So
Okay,
they
how do
are
you
a
spell that?
property tax. OWNWELL. Yeah. So own well, they see their property tax reduction service.
Mm,
They also, you can reach out to them as well to see whether they can help with that. But it's tough. It's tough out here with the properties and the taxes going up. In fact, and you see, this is the thing, you have to be really creative, because, for instance, for us, we usually, I prefer to do long term rental. I've always preferred long term rental. I don't want trouble. I don't want anybody calling me, blah, blah, blah. But the last couple of properties that we acquired, By the time we did the whole math and everything, the amount of the that the tenant was going to pay
Yeah.
was too, like, the cash flow was basically non-existent. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, imagine putting all this money and you're not even cash flowing, and you know tenants before you say one, two, three, something is fault, something is this, they've damaged this, they ah.
Yeah.
So we had to, you have to be dynamic. You have to like figure out something else. And so what we ended up doing was we moved into Airbnb. So, we moved into
Mm.
Airbnb for those properties because the money, not because the money you potentially can generate using the Airbnb method is more, but it's not really because of that that we even did the Airbnb. We really did the Airbnb because we were like, even if we're only breaking even with the Airbnb, at least the property will
Honestly.
maintain its good condition.
Yeah.
The wear and tear of the property will not be as much as when you have like um long-term tenant. Sometimes they won't tell you that there's a tiny little drip of something, and before you know what's happening, it becomes a
Not
big
something major.
problem. I have a long-term tenant. This happened about a month ago. We just decided to do a check, and we got there, and he said, "Oh, yeah, there's one part of the floor that's been a little bit weird," and we're like, "Oh, really? Okay, let's go see." Found out that this guy, as in, we're like, what? The floor is caving in. He was like, yeah, it don't matter. I just covered it with a rug.
Wow.
You can't live like this. Like, before you know what was happening, we had to call the people that came. They had to remove the floor, go into the subfloor, do this, do that, do that. It costs so much money to do that kind of thing. Meanwhile, the guy's been living with that situation for God knows how long.
Mm.
So at least with our experience with doing the short-term rental is that we're able to have our eyes on the property more frequently. You don't have that kind of heavy wear and tear on your property. You get to make more money, with it. It's just that there are more things to consider, doing Airbnb, because of course you have to make sure you have the license to do it and all sorts of nonsense. But it's definitely an opportunity, for short-term rental, and you just have to be able to think outside of the box. Sometimes in order for you to make your mortgage work, you just have to do something different.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dolly. This
All right, thank you. Please send me the recording as well.
get you all of that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you
Thanks
for your
everyone.
time. All right then.
Bye.
Bye.